You know, I don't think I've seen a movie this shamelessly hyper-masculine in such a long time, so I guess this movie is not going for it. Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to another episode of First Impressions. On today's episode, Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham reteamed to take on Idris Elba's Black Superman as the Fast and Furious franchise proudly presents Hobbs Shaw. The movie sees Dwayne Johnson's Luke Hobbs and Jason Statham's Deckard Shaw having to team up after Shaw's sister MI6 agent Hattie, played by Vanessa Kirby, is implicated in the theft of a deadly supervirus, following an ambush that leads to the deaths of several agents, as well as her infecting herself in order to protect the virus named Snowflake and prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. The trio soon cross paths as they go up against the deadly Brixton, played by Idris Elba, a genetically enhanced cyber anarchist hell-bent on destroying the world, and the former foes must put their differences aside, as well as their egos, to defeat Brixton, cure Hattie, and save the world. It's honestly a bit of a strange time for the Fast and Furious franchise. The last film, The Fate of the Furious, while it was undeniably a huge hit and made quite a lot of money, I mean, it did make over $1 billion worldwide, much of it outside of America, it still didn't really feel like a particularly necessary addition to the franchise. Especially with the unfortunate passing of Paul Walker in 2013, and the fantastic send-off he got in Furious 7. And it didn't exactly help that it was also marred by behind-the-scenes drama involving stars Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson, which is very evident in the final film since neither of the two even share a shot together, let alone a single scene. Nevertheless, that film did have one huge highlight. Every single scene with The Rock and Jason Statham together, as they genuinely made for a great on-screen duo, firing cheesy one-liners back at each other like nobody's business, and just having fantastic chemistry with each other. It's quite clear that the audience did respond to that particular aspect of the film very favourably, as now we're getting this new spin-off which is focused entirely about them. Yeah, who would have thought a studio would actually listen to their audience and give them what they wanted? Not something that happens terribly often, is it? Regardless, I was really looking forward to this film, not just because I love the two leads, but also because it had David Leitch, the director of Deadpool 2 and Atomic Blonde, directing it. And the dude is an absolutely phenomenal action director. He can tell pretty intriguing stories with a real sharp sense of wit and humour and panache and even a little bit of heart to it. In essence, I think he's a fantastic fit for the Fast and Furious franchise. I mean, this is a series that actively prides itself on just how big, bombastic, and larger than life it can get. I go into these movies expecting something pretty big, pretty bombastic, pretty larger than life, but also pretty laughably yet endearingly earnest as well, and that's pretty much exactly what I got with this film. It's basically yet another Fast and Furious film, like it or lump it, only this time around they've pretty much given up any pretense of it being set in any form of reality whatsoever. I mean, now that we've introduced superviruses and bionic cyborgs into this world, going to outer space doesn't seem like such a bad idea all of a sudden. And with Leitch as the director, the action is as large, bombastic, and over-the-top as ever, but it's also a lot more skillfully shot and edited than previous installments. That was always one of the things I didn't really like about Furious 7 and The Fate of the Furious especially. I feel like the action scenes were just a little too over-reliant on shaky cam and quick cuts, but fortunately, this film doesn't really have as much of that, so I think from a pure action standpoint, this might honestly be one of the best installments in the series. The other major asset to this film is of course the two leads, and just like the last Fast and the Furious film, both Johnson and Statham absolutely shine as an on-screen duo. The banter between them is great, and the constant trading of insults does lead to some really funny comedic moments. I mean, there's so much outrageous posturing and machismo between the two that I'm honestly very tempted to do a lengthy analysis on how this film is a commentary on masculinity and ego, because I'm pretty sure the subtext is there. It sounds crazy, I know, but I can guarantee you, if you look deep enough, it's there. And just like I said in the intro, I think it's probably the most overly and shamelessly masculine movie I've seen in a very long time. I don't think I've seen this many ridiculously buff men in a film since the original Predator. The rest of the cast are all pretty solid too, though. Idris Elba is a worthy foe who just chews up the scenery every chance he gets as the self-proclaimed Black Superman by way of the Terminator. He's so brutal and effective that he pretty much kicks both of our heroes' asses all throughout the film. And Vanessa Kirby works really well alongside the egotistical heroes, although her being the sister of Jason Statham is probably a little bit hard to swallow for some. It's a bit strange that they're siblings, but you know what? I'll buy it. This is a world where people can survive falling out of fucking cars and buildings and pretty much do anything that any normal human being can't do without even breaking a fucking limb. So you know what? I'll accept it. And then you also have the likes of Helen Mirren making a pretty funny cameo, reprising her role as the Shaw's mother. And then you also have a handful of entertaining cameos from a number of uncredited actors, who are mostly entertaining, but some of them do kind of outstay their welcome a bit. But just like any other film out there, it's certainly not without its flaws. For one, even though I did find most of the humour and dialogue in this film cheesily amusing, I can't stress that it's going to be for everyone's taste. Some people will probably find the dialogue in this film a fair bit cringy. And the humour as well can also be a little bit hit and miss. Some of it works really well, but there's a few jokes in this that do just straight up fall flat. And at 135 minutes, it does kind of feel its length in places. I feel like this film could have benefited with some tighter pacing in the long run. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you like the Fast and Furious films, you're gonna get a kick out of this film. If you're not a fan of the franchise, I can't really say this will change your mind. Just a fun action movie that does a lot right, has good humour, a lot of charisma, great leads, and David Leitch's direction does complement the goofy humour, cartoonish action, and cheesy sentimentality quite effectively overall. I'm gonna give Hobbs Shaw a light 7 out of 10. I personally found this movie to be a hell of a lot of fun, and I guess you could call it a guilty pleasure, but I'm not really the kind of person that likes tossing around the phrase guilty pleasures all that much, because if you like a movie, you shouldn't feel any guilt for it. But if we are going to use that phrase, I guess you could say this is a guilty pleasure with 0% guilt and 100% pleasure. So Hobbs Shaw, have you seen it yet? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to my channel while you're at it. Don't forget to hit the bell icon if you're already subscribed. That way you'll be notified whenever a new video is out. And if there's anything I could do to improve my presentation, do let me know. I'm always happy to hear feedback as long as it's somewhat constructive. If you want to follow me on social media or support me on Patreon or check out my website, links are below down in the description. And until next time, I'm Danny Quinn, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.